I find it really interesting that you tried out for Laura and Mary when you're so
Right?
clearly perfect for the Nellie role.
Well, I have to admit, I wasn't terribly surprised when I didn't get either of those. I mean, I said, not a country girl. Definitely, you read the book. I'm a city girl. And so I read for Lauren Mary. I was like, yeah, no, not happening. And I mean, I remember I read for Nanny and the Professor. I remember I liked that one. I think I read for everything. And they went and made the pilot. And so, of course, I see the pilot. And there's Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Sue Anderson. I'm like, duh. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. These people. And I didn't think any more about it. I just like, la, la, la. I hadn't read the books. I had not read the books. I was totally clueless. So when they said, you have to come down to Paramount and read for Little House on the Prairie, I thought, what are they talking about? Because we did that. Little House on the Prairie has been cast. It has been made. And I didn't know, well, what other characters? And I get there and they hand me the sides, and I'm sitting there with my dad. And I started reading it and I turned to my father. Remember, I'm like 12. I said, this is not a normal part. She's awful. This girl, she's a, and my father said, what are you talking about? I go, she's a complete, he goes, no. I start reading it for him. And it's that first episode. It's Country Girls. So it's all that my home is the best home. All of Wanaka. My father's like dying laughing. He goes, okay, don't rehearse it. Don't read it again. He snatches the pages out. He literally grabs it. He puts them face down. He goes, don't look at them. Don't even look at them. Go in and do whatever you just did.
Thanks for watching Hot Flashes and Cool Topics podcast. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell to catch all of our conversations. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. We are thrilled to welcome Alison Arngrim to the show. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we have been looking forward to this interview. So many of you will remember Alison as Nellie Oleson on Little House on the Prairie. You know, you were the bully before. I think probably one of the first bullies I ever saw on TV. But we're going to get into all that because we are of the same demographic. But
Sorry.
I wanted to start with, gosh, when I was researching what you've been doing, what haven't you been doing is really the
Right.
question.
Hardest working woman in show business. I don't know.
Honestly, you have energy to spare. First off, stand-up comedy. Was that always what you wanted to do?
I started doing stand-up when I was like 15. I've been playing the club since I was 15, 16 years old. So at the Comedy Store and the Improv and everywhere. I think first time I went on like tour was like I was about 19 or 20, I think. So yeah, I've been doing stand-up forever. And then some years ago I started doing my one-woman show, Confessions of a Prairie, which is all true stories with a question and answer segment. And that just took off because that's apparently what people really wanted. It's the book. I met a literary agent. Usually people do the book and then the show. I was doing the show and a literary agent came to my show and said, is there a book to go with this show? And I said, oh, there could be. And he said, I need 4 chapters. And I'm like, funny. Oh, look, there's 4 chapters right there. Oh, these here. And just, bang, Zoom. And next thing I know, I'm meeting with every publisher in New York. It was absolutely crazy. So yeah, I've always done stand up, I guess. Now I get really most of my life, really, because I'm going, how old am I? Sir, 50? Yeah, pretty much all my life. So and, it's work for me because, some people be in the 70s when you're on a series, a lot of people sang or did things. You'd go on the talk shows, Merv Griffin, Dinah Shore, and you'd sing. I can't sing, can't sing or dance. So I had to take up stand-up comedy. And it worked. It's just worked for me so well. And it means that no matter what's going on, if I'm not getting work, if there's a strike, if there's a nuclear war is declared somewhere, I'm in a bunker doing stand-up. So
And you're coming to Nashville soon. I saw your
I
tour schedule.
I am in May because I started. Yeah, I just did Atlanta. I came back from France on like a Monday and left for Atlanta on Thursday. I did a show in Atlanta, and I'm May 11th. I am in New York, and then what am I?
I think
As
it's
I'm
like
like looking at my
15th.
dates.
Yeah,
I'm
15th
sitting
or
here. Yeah,
16th.
there's my calendar because I'm on 15th and 16th. I am the 15th in the 15th in Nashville, and then I'm in Louisville the next day, the 16th, and both at a place called Club Play, which I did do last year. Marvelous place.
Yeah. Well, we're in Nashville, and I'm from Louisville, so I saw both of those, and I was like, "Well, if I don't catch her there,
Excellent.
catch her there." Yeah.
It was so hysterical. So there's this drag queen, Veronica Electronica. Yes, as good as it sounds. And they do all kinds of comedy and drag and crazy stuff at these clubs. And Veronica last year came out and opened the show by coming out to introduce me dressed as Mrs. Olson.
Oh,
Um, it was that good. Oh, it was good. Oh, it was that good. But with like sequence, like Mrs. Olson was like amazing. And he called me and said, I have a plan for this year. I have a surprise. I have a new costume. You and I'm like, no, what are you doing? So it's going to be epic. It will be absolutely epic.
So,
we're,
Colleen, are
we're
you
gonna
in
have
town
to
the
go.
15th?
I am in
You need to
town.
The
come. You need
15th.
to come.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, because we
15,
got to
16, back
see.
to
I
back.
can't wait to see what it is.
oh, we would
And
love that.
like I said, you have to ask me anything. I have a huge segment of the show where I have little cards that say "Ask Allison anything," and it's so funny because I did the cards because people could feel more anonymous and ask whatever they wanted, not have to raise their hand and have the pressure. But now I get the cards and people have all written their name and their like phone number, their email. Like I'm like, so okay, so this is Joe right over there. Like like you're identifying yourself with this crazy question. I said, yeah. So but yeah, indeed, come on down.
Oh, that is
How much
great.
of your
Great.
material did you get from your 7 years on Little House? I mean, I would think a lot.
A lot, a lot. As I always say, do you write your show? No, my show writes itself. Because it's just all true stories and all things that actually happen. And indeed I do talk about the show because it's so crazy to have been Nellie Oleson and talk about what it's like, to be a crazy ex-child star, to grow up in Hollywood, to be famous at 12 and have people hate you. And my whole crazy Hollywood family. My mother was Casper the Friendly Ghost, and my father managed Liberace. I mean, how's that for starters? I mean, it's like, yes, so it's all just like, what, who, what? My life is very bizarre. And being on Little House was part of it. And so, yeah, I just tell all the best stories and all the dirt. And it's a scream.
I love your book. So I read your book, of course. And
Yeah. Okay. Then
I,
you've got the book. I go more in depth and I talk about sad things, but
right.
yes, there's many things in the book or in the show, and there's things in the show that aren't in the book and things in the book that aren't in the show. So collect all 12. You must, yes, come to dinner.
It is completely fascinating. I mean, it is, where you start out talking about, well, how your parents and their career got started.
Right.
But the part about Liberace in the book where they were, can you share a little bit how they told you?
Well,
Talk about
my
it.
father was working at Seymour Heller and Associates, and they said, "Okay, well, you're assigned to Liberace." So we're living in a house around the corner from Liberace. We had to go rent a house in the Hollywood Hills near Liberace in case he had an emergency. And I'm like, "Okay, what constitutes a Liberace emergency?" What is that? A sequin fell off. I don't know what happened. So we were ready for anything. And so they take me to his shows. And because, take the 8-year-old to Liberace. And I said, my parents said, don't be on your best behavior. Don't say anything because no one must know that Liberace is gay. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm 8. I know he's gay. And it was so hysterical because these women were in love with him, but they knew on some level. They knew. They really were like, oh, he's so cute. Oh, he's one of those. They knew. It's like if you went up to these women, of course, it's the old days. I mean, remember, he was huge in the 50s and said, is this man gay? They would say, how dare you? Don't you say anything bad about Liberace? No, no, no. But if you said, are you going to marry him? They would have gone, no. They knew, but it was this unspoken thing. And they did not care. They did not care. They went, we want our Liberace. We want the songs. We're buying a ticket. We're buying all the merch. We're going to the show. We don't care. We do not care. We love him. And it was just an amazing thing to witness. You couldn't get a ticket. I mean, he sold out every freaking show. And that was always the running thing. The critics would make fun of him because it's ridiculous, this actor. I mean, yes, he can play well, but the sequence of the rhyme, he drove a car on stage. He flies over the stage. He's twirling a baton. I mean, seriously, people. And yeah, go try to get a ticket. It sold out. He was like one of the most successful entertainers in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just amazing. And just the places where you lived, Chateau Marmont. I mean,
I said, I am a princess. I know because I lived in a castle.
If we could start at the beginning with Little House and then work our way into the very busy career that you have now. But I find it really interesting that you tried out for Laura and Mary when you're so clearly perfect for the Nellie role.
Well, I have to admit, I wasn't terribly surprised when I didn't get either of those. I mean, I said, not a country girl. Definitely, you read the book. I'm a city girl. And so I read for Laura and Mary. I was like, yeah, No, not happening. And I mean, I remember I read for Nanny and the Professor. I remember I liked that one. I think I read for everything. And they went and made the pilot. And so, of course, I see the pilot. And there's Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Sue Anderson. I'm like, duh. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
These people. And I didn't think any more about it. I just like, la, la, la. I hadn't read the books. I had not read the books. I was totally clueless. So when they said, you have to come down to Paramount and read for Little House on the Prairie, I thought, what are they talking about? Because we did that. Little House on the Prairie has been cast. It has been made. And I didn't know, well, what other characters? And I get there and they hand me the sides and I'm sitting there with my dad and I started reading it and I turned to my father. Remember, I'm like 12. I said, this is not a normal part. She's awful. This girl, she's a bitch. And my father said, what are you talking about? I go, she's a complete bitch. He goes, no. I start reading it for him. And it's that first episode. It's Country Girls. So it's all that my home is the best home. All of Womack. My father's like dying laughing. He goes, okay, don't rehearse it. Don't read it again. He snatches the pages out. He literally grabs it. He puts them face down. He goes, don't look at them. Don't even look at them. Go in and do whatever you just did. He's like, literally just do that. I'm like, okay. So I go in and I do just that. And it's Michael Land, the producers, and they go crazy. They start laughing. They say, could you do it again? I go, yeah, what do you want me to change? They go, nothing. Just read the thing about the house again. Okay. They wanted to see if it was a fluke. Clearly at 12, I got the joke. I mean, when Nellie says, it still cracks me up 51 years later. And I watched it recently and I went, yep, that's funny. We have 3 sets of dishes, one for every day, one for Sunday, and one for when someone very special and important comes to visit, which we have never even used yet. She's bragging about these dishes, but doesn't realize that, like how you live in Walnut Grove, the Queen of England is not coming for tea, that you don't know anybody famous or important or nobody's coming. And to say, and which we've never even used yet, and that she's too dumb to realize that she's just revealed this about herself. And to get that joke that this person is bragging about this thing and is an idiot and doesn't realize what they've just said. Do all 12-year-olds at the audition get that? I don't know, but I did. I remember I read it. I went, "That's funny as hell." So I did. They went crazy, and I was hired on the spot. I mean, we drove home. We didn't live that far, and my agent was on the phone going, "Oh, they've already called. We've made a deal." While you were in the car, we made a deal. It's done, and that happened a lot. Now that all of us are talking about it endlessly, from the show, everyone's telling similar stories of, well, I was doing the audition and then Michael suddenly jumped up and said, that's it, you have the part. And then the other producers went, shh, we have to talk to the network first. We have to call their agent. Stop that. And that he was constantly hiring people in the middle of the audition. They would like barely get the lines out. Next. And he would just say, you're it. And they'd have to say, okay, well, we'll call you. And like days later. And he would do that. I mean, Dean said it took a while because it did have to make phone calls, but he said, are you available on these dates? And he went, oh my God, he's offering. And then he did decide like immediately. Pat Laberto, who was Andy Garvey, was reading and they said, can you come down? Can we take you out to the location? They're filming right now and Michael wants to see you. Can we take you to the location? Okay, so a couple of kids from this audition, their mothers all pile in these cars and they take them all the way out to Simi Valley. And they come out and there's Michael on set. He's like, this is getting weird. They've brought me to the set to read for the producer. He's in costume. This is like bizarre. And so he reads and then Michael says, thank you. And they all start to head back for the car. He says, you can all go. And he starts to go and Michael grabs him and goes, not you. And then says, can you get him in costume? And he hires him and puts him to work that day.
That is crazy.
That's a great story.
He did this all the time. He knew what he wanted. He always said, he was always like, he like had this vision of, he knew that's why the show worked. The chemistry between the actors. He knew immediately, this is the person I want. And he had this vision of how it was supposed to look and sound and how it was going to be. And it was like, this is how it's going to be. And if that person walked in, he was like, I'm done.
That it is amazing what he did. And that's why that show was so successful, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. And can you share about the infamous scene about the wheelchair going down the hill, which has become a meme?
It is okay. When I talk to people from other countries, or I'm in France or other countries, and people say, "Oh, the episode," and they go, This is the international gesture for down a hill in a wheelchair. And it's like when they make the, I call it the down, yes, the episode, I know it. It's that imprinted on people. And yeah, of course, it's my favorite episode, but it's apparently Nellie Fanatic's favorite episode because who does that? I mean, did anybody in the Waltons or the Brady Bunch go down a hill? No, no one has done this. I'm the only person. It's so insane. And when we did it, I went, this is completely insane. Nobody who does this. But it was so incredible because it's like Nellie normally she does things to ruin Laura's life, but in that episode where I'm pretending to be paralyzed, I'm ruining everyone's life. I mean, I've dragged Doc Baker into it. My parents are hysterical, crying. I make my parents cry. Mr. Ingalls has to drop what he's doing and make a wheelchair. It's like everyone's life is being horribly impacted by this crazy 13-year-old girl and her problems. And it's just like, oh my God, this is terrible. So then I get shoved down a hill in a wheelchair. So they had a stunt woman. And so it was like a 5-part thing edited together because we had no CGI. It's like 70s technology. First, they put me in the chair and there's a steel cable in the back of the chair and they go. And we start to go like roller coaster. We're going to go down the hill and then stop, pull me back out. Then a very brave, very highly trained stunt woman gets in the thing and goes down that hill and does that like midair somersault, insane thing into the pond. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Then they take me to a different hill, like on like a different day. After she did the somersault in the pond, I then got in the pond and came up spitting. But then they shot the part where they take me to another hill. It was actually by the little house because it was a longer but less steep hill. So you could more footage of screaming and put me in the chair and roll me down that. And they were hoping to scare me by saying, oh, the rope broke down a chair, but the rope wasn't controlling anything. And I was already, there were no seatbelts. I'm not strapped in. I'm in my nightgown and underwear and bedroom slippers and nothing else. And no seatbelt, no protective gear of any kind going down a hill outdoors in an 1800s wheelchair, which is going to like come apart at any minute. And I'm like, the hell did I let myself get talked into? And my teeth are rattling in my head. It was technically, had it tipped over, had I hit a bump and tipped over, had I fallen out of it, I would have gotten hurt. It was like ridiculous that we were doing this. There was like nothing holding, like they could have put a rope, something on me. Nothing.
A seatbelt. Nobody would have known.
Yes. And I'm like, ah! And so we just did it. And so I'm screaming for dear life and hanging on. And they edited this in with the stunt woman, and then I, of course, come up spinning, and it's brilliant. It's truly in the same episode. There's the thing, I run into the tree branch. I'm on the horse and go slamming into the tree branch. Right. Again, no CGI. So I'm sitting on a box. I mean, I never could ride a horse. I can't ride a horse. It's terrible. So I was always sitting on a box going giddy up and some stunt woman riding. So I'm sitting on a box. Yeah, giddy up again. But this time they have a mattress behind me and I'm on this box doing the giddy up thing. And two crew members, two grips are holding a sheet of plexiglass. And one guy's even Windexing it every couple of minutes to make sure there's nothing on it. So you can't tell it's there. And they're holding this plexiglass. And the third guy takes a tree branch and swings it and slams it into the plexiglass. And I go, and fall over backwards. And they film this and they put the camera here and the tree branch. I've watched it now. I've watched it a million times. You can't. I'm like, that is freaking looks like I went face first through a tree branch. It really does. I'm like, I don't know. That looks like I hit that tree branch. That looked like it hurt. And it was genius. Literally plexiglass and a tree branch and me going, oof. So we did a lot of amazing things technologically and stunt-wise at the time. And it's so just demented and off the charts crazy. And the whole like, whatever happened to Baby Jane, except it's like Betty Davis is in the chair. And the fact that, the hairdresser worked for Betty Davis for 800 years. So like, does the wig look like Betty Davis? Yes, it does. Is that an accident? No. Like, of course it looks like Betty Davis. It was Larry Germain who was her hairdresser for years. So,
oh my God,
yeah.
That's so funny. That is so funny. I can't even imagine a set with a whole bunch of teenage kids on it. And you're trying to be professional. And
right.
How was it with, puberty hitting for a lot of you? And what was it like on the set?
Murder each other all. The fact that nobody killed anybody was really just amazing. Because, we talk about, feuds. People would visit us from other sets. And I noticed this early on. They would visit from other shows or they'd be guest star. And they would say, God, you guys get along so well. It's ridiculous. And someone would say, oh, well, not always. And they go, no, your guys' idea of a big spat is I'm not going to sit with you at lunch. They said there's other sets. People have restraining orders against each other. There are other sets. No one has spoken to each other in years.
Oh my.
And they're still filming the show. You yo-yos are like hanging out at the holidays and having slumber parties and buying each other Christmas presents. Like, this is not normal. You people like each other way too much. But yes, as teenagers, tween girls, anyone who's ever taught school or had children, tween girls, let's take a bunch of tween girls and lock them in a studio for 7 years. What could go wrong? So I always say the fact that nobody murdered anybody was just a miracle. Melissa Gilbert and I did hit it off. We bonded immediately and had slumber parties at each other's house and became friends. We're still friends. We're still like texting each other. It's like crazy. Melissa Sue, I always said I think her mother told her that Melissa and I were juvenile delinquents and to avoid us. And in retrospect, as adults, this seems to have been partially like what happened, because now she's gotten positively friendly. I always say, like Armistice was signed in June at the beach in Monte Carlo last year. There was a whole event in Monte Carlo. A bunch of us were there. And next thing I know, Melissa Sue Anderson and I are like sitting there drinking champagne at the beach in Monte Carlo going, well, this is pleasant. We shook hands and yeah, we're cool. I don't know. We're going for mani pedis. I don't know. So we're like, didn't Elton John and Madonna just make up recently?
They did on SNL. Yeah.
That's there's a very few people on earth I really can't stand that I hate. I generally, somebody has to do some really tough. There's only a few people on earth I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I really don't like this person. Generally I'm like, yeah, whatever. And if it was something stupid that we just didn't get along and it was like, and we were 12, I'm like, yes, if Madonna and Elton John can make up, then yes, I can have the occasional conversation, I guess, with Melissa Sue Anderson. I think we'll manage.
And that, I love in your book how you talk about how Melissa Gilbert brought the group together and the other children. Yes.
She's always had that. That's why she was president of SAG. Absolutely. She was organizing as a little girl. She's always had this likely thing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. And it's always had, when we have had, our reunions we have, when she is there, she's like, okay, I have a plan. Okay, where are we going? Here's where we're going to dinner. This is what we're doing. Even when we had the big Hollywood show reunion, which was one of the reunions right before the 50th, it was getting closer. Right away, we knew we all had to go to dinner at the Smokehouse in Burbank, because that's where it's near Forest Lawn. Every time someone from the show died, we'd all go to the Smokehouse. So it was tradition. So we're getting together, and it was like we were texting each other. So we're getting together. She's like, okay, we have to get together after, and like 5 people, we all texted Smokehouse, and I was like, dude, already made reservations. Yes, and so, but. Yeah, she does. She's like the organizer, and she did. Rumors start, little girls, oh my God, and then stage mothers. What are these people thinking? And so gossip gets going because people are competitive, and stage mothers will actually start rumors about children.
Yeah.
Those cheerleader moms. Wasn't there a TV maybe about a cheerleader mom tried to kill another cheerleader competing with
sports moms do it. Sports moms do it.
Moms. It's a sickness, and sports moms, cheerleader moms, stage, it's a thing. And so, yes, they're literally try to talk down other child actors in competition to enhance their child's career.
That's insane.
Isn't that? Oh my gosh.
So we knew something was wrong with this story, that there was this rumor like I was a problem. Like, okay. And so Melissa's like, okay, this is not normal. And next thing you know, she's got all these people jammed into her dressing room, all these kids. And she's like, okay, I need to know now. Like, who's her? And they're all like, it wasn't me. And they finally copped to this poor girl who it wasn't. We're like, but no, she's perfectly nice. What are you talking about? She wouldn't do something like that. She totally would not. And that's a very nice girl. And they went, well, it's your mother. And we went, oh, good Lord. And so she said, okay, see, now we all know. And she said, the adults are going to try to make us compete because it's Hollywood. And they're going to try to make us kids compete against each other and stab each other in the back and all this. And we're just not doing it. If we don't have a united front now, God help us all. And and it's true. And that's why I feel that like child actors are the only kid on a show. And some studios figured it out and started saying, okay, we have one kid on the show, two on this one, let's put them all in a schoolroom for their 3-hour school together. So they have some community, because that's where child stars get isolated. Kids where there's a lot of other kids on the show, like the Waltons, like Little House, we tend to do a little better because we have our own little society. We do have a little group and can back each other up.
Right. What was the 50th reunion like last? We had Dean on the show, and he was like, it was insane, bigger than we could have imagined.
The whole year, I think we were booked every weekend. It was out of control. So we thought, okay, it's going to be big. So we planned this event for Simi Valley. And it literally, the Simi event was years in the planning. We actually almost threw an event in Simi Valley in like 2019 before the pandemic. Seriously, we were meetings. It's a Baby Carrie event. I always say, this is a Baby Carrie party. Rachel Greenbush, yes, one half of Baby Carrie, and her husband, Danny Sanchez, these people, they live in Simi. Danny grew up in Simi. He said, I've been pestering people in Simi about, because they have like a Pioneer Day. Why do we not have like a Little House thing? We should, duh, they filmed. And so next thing you know, this whole thing progressed where Olan has been making these sets. I mean, we wind up in the office of the Chamber of Commerce. This woman from the Chamber of Commerce actually Facebooked me and said, I want to do something about Little House. And I said, that's so weird. I literally just had lunch with people discussing. So we wound up having this meeting, and it was her. And we talked about going into the ranch to see me, what could we do? And then obviously pandemic hit. At one point we said, we'll make it a drive-in. We'll just drive. It won't get out of the car. Well, then of course the 50th is coming. It's like, okay, we'll do it. 18,000 people showed up. So this was years in the planning. There was a planning committee of like 40 people meeting regularly. It was huge. And it was a 3-day thing, and 18,000 people over 3 days showed up. And I knew it was going to get nuts. When we sold 10,000 tickets, I started flipping out and like calling the people who were in charge on the committee for security and going, you do have enough security, right? You know that 10,000 people are coming. I said, it's going to go Woodstock. It's going to go Woodstock. They're going to just rip down the fences. I said, we hadn't even done TV yet. And then me and Karen Grassley and Melissa all went on the Today Show. And I'm like, they're going to rip the doors off the hinges. And they damn near did. So it was 18,000 people. Luckily, they were very well behaved, and we didn't have to arrest anybody, and they didn't rip the fences out of the ground. So we're really relieved.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because
madness. We were exhausted.
I looked up for tickets, and it was, I think buses and charters were like, yes, yeah, they were out. They were sold out. Like you were going to have to just.
The buses had, I think you see 60 people or something, and they put on more buses. The buses were just going like this up and down the hill. And they started before we even got there. There was like the early morning bus before anything started, or the actors got there for the autograph section. And they went until sundown, because animals will eat you. There's wild animals in Simi. You'll get killed and eaten by something if you go after dark. And not to mention the rattlesnakes in the daytime. It was like madness. That's why we did it in the spring, because we said we sure as hell ain't doing this in the summer. And we had the buses going, and then it rained, and so they couldn't run the buses because they get stuck in the mud, and everybody went nuts. And they said, your tickets will be honored. Your tickets will be honored tomorrow. Come back. We'll add more buses. And that was chaos. And then they said, okay, we have to do makeup. So like a couple weeks after the event, they said, we called back the bus rental people. We put the flats back up, and we're having like just the bus ride. People could board just the bus ride, because we're done. We're done. We're not having the event. Yes, but we're going to have the bus rides. And some of us from the cast would come, and I would like do the bus ride, the tour thing, or Dean would. And people bought tickets and came and just did the bus ride up to the set. This is still going on. It's spring. They're going to be scheduling more bus rides. I don't know if this is ever going to stop.
Yeah.
And then we had other events. We'd had some events planned, smaller events, and all of a sudden, none of those were small events anymore. Thousands and thousands of people began showing up at these things. Some of them got a little out of control, where people were waiting 6 hours. There was one that was so nutty. They didn't know what they were doing. They didn't plan it properly, and there were too many people, and they were waiting outside, and it was getting hot. Now, we were all exhausted and ready to collapse, and people wound up going to the doctor like the next day for dehydration. People got sick. And so we're like, okay, this is getting bad. And they said, these people are outside. It's really hot. And we said, is there water? Did someone get them water? No. And we went, oh my God. So the cast opportuned several of our team to go to the store and buy water and snacks for the fans in line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we
Wow.
just get something. And next thing you know, they're like being given candy bars and water, going courtesy of Al Manzo and
Yeah.
Nellie and the gang. Knock yourself over, like what? And it's like, okay, the actors are starting to buy treats and water for the what is going on? But just so many people. There's too many people. And so we're now this year. We said, okay, this get, and it was just insane. It went on and on and on. I went to France. We went. I did. There was a thing in Monte Carlo. We were everywhere, and we were exhausted. So this year, since there's still demand, which is totally blowing all our minds, we said, okay, but we're gonna get involved in the planning. So we have this huge event in June, the first week, June 6th through 8th in Sonora. But we're like running this thing. So we said, okay, first of all, we are going to have a ceiling on tickets, which means it will get sold out, like the VIP, the Gold Country, littlehousegoldcountry.com, the Gold Country Columbia one. VIP 3-day passes sold out immediately. I think there's VIP 1-day passes, and there's still 3-day passes and regular tickets, but certain ones sold out. We went, yeah, that's how it's going to be. And at some point, we're going to say it's completely sold out because we're not going to just infinitely, we're
Right.
not doing 18,000 people again. We're not doing.
It's taken on a life of its own. I
But,
mean, yeah.
but why do
We're
you think that is? Why do you think there is still such a love for the show 50 years after the fact?
It's so crazy. It is the thing that it was a very emotional show. People relate to it totally on emotional, visceral level. Um, they identify. They want Ma and Pa to be their parents. A number of people who say, "Oh, if only my parents were Charles and Caroline, they would have understood." People identify with the situations. It's all life, death, birth. Everyone has Nellie at their school. Everyone has a Mrs. Olson at their job. Um, they go, we've met these people. I know these people. It's real for them, and it's more like being on Star Trek or in the Wizard of Oz. It's not like a regular show. Because I started thinking about all the shows. I mean, that were hits at the time we were on. That it's been their 50th. I'm like, where are
Yeah.
you? Happy Days. They're rocking it. They're getting out there. But 18,000. Who has 18,000 people? And who has celebrations for their 51st?
Good
Yeah.
point.
But
Yeah.
we are limiting the number of ticket sales. Yes, it'll be terrible because at some point we'll be sold out. But that means we figured it out. We did like a whole mathematical thing. If we have this many people in this many hours, we could actually speak to all of them and sign the
Yes.
autographs and not wear ourselves out, wear them out, not make people wait for 17 hours. It's that we can make it like a little more civilized. We can be more
Right.
civilized about this. So we're hoping all our events are more civilized. And then I have my shows I'm doing, and I'm throwing in Pasadena Comic Con on the 24th. Let's go there. But who has 51? Usually 51 is a complete, like we had year 40, week the 40th, who was big, but we didn't really do much of anything for the 41st. Yeah, we had a thing for the 45th. 50th blew up. We went, okay, we just wrote it off. Everybody said, just scrape this year off the calendar. You're not doing anything but this. We know we're not doing anything but this is what we're doing. 51st. We're selling things out. It's year 51. What is happening? But that's what people tell. We meet people from all over the world. It shows in 140 countries. And I meet people from Sri Lanka, Peru, Borneo. And I'm like, what does it mean? What does this show even mean in these other countries? It's the story of Laura Ingalls. It's white American pioneers, a bunch of blonde, blue-eyed people in covered wagons on a prairie. You don't have a prairie in your country in Borneo. What does it mean? And they said, but we can identify most people in the world aren't rich. They're not living in those giant apartments on Friends. They said most people don't have a lot of money. They're living in a tiny house, a lot of children, not sure if they're going to make it through the month. If the crops fail, it's a big deal. They have a horrible Mrs. Olson or someone in town making their life miserable. These are things we can identify. Will we be able to afford shoes for the children for school? These are things that normal people in pretty much most of the world are dealing with. And they go, well, these people we get.
Yeah. It's the
This is the show.
personality. Yeah. Yeah.
We get this show.
Mhm.
And so people they get pulled in. It's very, very personal for people.
Yeah, I know, growing up, even when I was like, I'm around your age, so I was watching it as a child. And then, in high school, it'd be on after school. I'd come home from school,
School
people would
generation.
watch it. I have a friend that her parents made her stop watching it because she and her sisters cried too much.
There's people who are kind of addicted.
Yes,
Become a
she
thing.
would come home and they would cry every day. She and her two sisters would cry so much that her mother said, I can't have this after school I mean,
Hysterical.
I could see banning you from like, I don't know, The Simpsons or South Park, but
Adult material, but no, it's crying. It's what have you seen? I think Pamela Bob, who do the pod, Dean and I do the podcast with. She wrote a thing called "Living on a Prairie" about this woman who's obsessed, and it is this woman is so obsessed with Little House that her life has just gone off the rails. She can't do anything that isn't related to. So they are out there. It's a thing, and they talk about the generations. We had the primetime generation, the after school generation, the before school generation, the VHS generation, the DVD generation. Now we're on to the streaming generation. So we have different, we're down to the age, it's like our 6th, 7th generation of viewers, and it's not stopping. That's what gets me. Young people show up to these events. Young people come to my shows, and I'm like, come here. How old are you? You watch Little House on the Prairie? I'm like, what? They're like, yes, I'm really into it. You have no idea. And I'm like, you're 18. It's very strange.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
strange for us.
But there's also a simplicity, no social media, no, instant gratification for things. If you wanted to go somewhere, it took a while to get there. And there is
3 days to Mankato, isn't it?
but there's a simplicity that I think a lot of people miss in life. And there was death, there was reality. It wasn't sugar coated that at the end of every episode everybody was happy, happy, happy.
Well, right. And we had all the topics. My God, we did drug abuse, alcoholism, spousal abuse, child abuse, sexual assault, racism, anti-Semitism, anti-Native Americanism. We did everything happened. It all
Wow.
happened and was dealt with in a way that people could wrap their minds around because you knew Charles Ingalls was going to come. He was going to do the right thing and that Ma would say something and that you knew that they would fix it, that it would be okay. But they let you hang. I mean, in the end of Wisdom of Solomon, when Todd Bridges, goes back to his family, it's like, well, he did learn to read, but like, yeah, no, he probably can't grow up to be whatever he wants, and he may actually be a sharecropper, and we don't know. And how's that going to go for him? We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. It did. It really did touch on things. And even like Nellie comes through in the end. And that was one of my favorites is when you fell in love on the show. I mean,
Percival.
finally you had, yeah, it just, and I love that in the book too, just the relationship that you had.
Well, I would say nights were lonely on the prairie. Clearly, I mean, that was the thing. Nellie was misunderstood and needed someone to love.
Yeah, yeah. And then just that whole just the way that relationship took off and your
Yes.
activism took off as well.
Exactly. Well, Steve Tracy was my friend, and what a guy he was. And I started volunteering. He went public with his AIDS diagnosis in '86, and I started volunteering at AIDS Project Los Angeles. And to just find out as much as I could, because people were just asking it's the '80s. People thought they were going to get it off the doorknob, for God's sakes. And so I wound up being on the hotline, the speakers bureau and everything. And Steve was an amazing person. I mean, he went public because he wanted to help people. And he was so brave. I mean, this is the early days. They didn't know there's these drugs now. People are living for decades and they're like undetectable viral loads and these miracles we're seeing. That was not a thing then. And he was on an experimental drug at one point. And what was really cool, though, his family supported it. Back then, people's families, I mean, that's why so many people were in hospices. Their parents wouldn't take them. His mom and his sister were on the first plane out. They absolutely took care of him. But when he was towards the end, he went on this very, very rough experimental drug with injections. And I said, doesn't that hurt? And he's like, oh, yeah. He didn't care. And I said, my God, is it going to work? And he literally said, no, it's too late for me. I said, what? He said, oh, no, it's too late. I'm letting them do this so they can save people after I'm gone.
Wow. What an amazing
That's the kind of
man.
person Steve Tracy was.
Yeah. I just, it makes you just appreciate someone like him even more. And he was so fantastic in that role as well. And
so when you see Percival stand up and tell Mrs. Olson, will you be quiet, and stand up to the Olsons and Nellie, yeah, that's the kind of guy he was. He was a tough guy.
Wow. Yeah. It just, and then isn't that how you met your husband eventually, is through the AIDS activism? And
exactly. That's what's so crazy. As an actor, when we're all on the show, we all sit acting, oh, we're all going to go on and do something else. And we'll all forget about this. No one will remember this. And here we are. but it's weird because all roads kind of lead to Walnut Grove. All these things are enmeshed. And yes, Bob Schoonover was running the hotline when I met him where I was because Steve Tracy had been. It's like you can't escape it. It's very crazy. Everything I do, I go, oh, well, well, I did this. And why did you do that? Well, because of the Little House on the Prairie
It
again,
goes
wasn't
back.
it all, it's all it's like you can't, it's like there's no way to
No,
disconnect from it.
from it. No, can't.
And maybe they're telling you not to, that all roads should lead back. And
It does. And
a
so I
good
get
thing.
at some point, and that's what people say, oh, you really embrace the character in the show. Yeah, at some point you figure it out and you say, can't beat them, join them, and you throw in the towel and you go, I guess this is what we're doing, and you go with it. And some years ago I went, okay, this is what's happening, and I went with it, and everything's gone really well for me since.
Yeah.
And the rest of the cast at this point have said, I give up. Okay, when's the next reunion? What am I doing? We've all just given up and said, I guess this is the train we are on, and so be it. Then yes, Little House, as Dean says, Little House forever. Yes, here we go.
You embrace so many stories in your one woman show, which I just think is amazing, that led into a book. Now you're doing this this is not like 5 years after the show's ended. This is quite some time later.
Way after I was in my 40s, and this is, we're talking about hot flashes things. So I start hitting like perimenopause, menopause, and it was all very weird because my mother, menopause symptoms, when they say, oh, they're different from my mother, had no symptoms. I had no one to go to, like call my mother and ask, because my mother also died when I was 40. And so it's like, that was hard. But when she would have had menopause and then later had something to tell me, when I asked her some years later, so what would happen when you went through menopause? Oh, I don't know. I didn't really have menopause. I went, I'm sorry, what? Well, I went to the doctor because, my period stopped. So, and I said, aren't I supposed to be feeling something? He said, yes, you're having menopause. And she said, and he said, are you having hot flash? No, not really. And went down the list. And he said, having some? No. She simply had no symptoms or didn't notice them. I don't know.
Oh,
But she said
man.
nothing happened. She go on estrogen? No, she didn't go on anything because nothing happened. We don't know why. She was just like that.
And there are some people like that,
Yes,
that
very
like,
few.
very few.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess I had menopause. I'm like, how do you do what? So, but that was her. She just was oblivious to these sort of things. What menopause? Is there
Yeah.
menopause? So she wasn't any help for that sort of thing. So and as people know now, there's like 37 symptoms of menopause besides having a hot flash, that they didn't talk about for years. Now they do. I had them all. Had them all. I tell my friends, I go, oh, no, see, I didn't have hot flashes. One day I got hot and then just stayed there for about 15 years. It's kind of just now winding down. I just got hot. It was great. Like I'd be somewhere where it was really cold and I'd go, does anybody want anything from the store? And make up excuses to go outside when it was like sleeting with like no jacket just to get out where it's cold. There was just no blankets on the bed for like a decade. I know. I just got hot and stayed there. It didn't come and go.
There was no flash. Yeah.
Yes.
And it came on weirdly, like, what is happening? Like a flash.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, well, and now it's supposed to stop. Nope. Okay, this is life now. I just got hot and stayed there. It's absolutely bizarre. I had the weird dreams. And I say had because eventually it just kind of winds down. As my doctor said, we tried different things. There was like a patch and there was a pill and there was a cream. And I'm highly sensitive to all medications. It's like I break an aspirin in half. So I would have way 300 times the effect it was supposed to. I'd like to any estrogen. I'd like fall asleep. I guess
wow.
I was like it's like how much did you
Progesterone.
take?
Yeah,
Yeah.
progesterone will put you to
Yeah.
sleep. Yeah.
How
Yeah.
much did you take? Half a pill. What is happening?
Yeah.
Finally, she said, try the patch. You can cut it up with scissors and use a smaller piece. Anything. So very crazy. But then my doctor said, well, eventually it's the up and down of the hormones. Eventually it stops and then you're just wherever you are. And I went, oh, I'll take that. Thank God. But I had weird dreams. And I went to the doctor and I said, I got to do something. That's when I did get the patch. I said, these nightmares. And she said, oh dear, because she said she'd gone through the same thing. She said, oh, the murder dreams. I said, no, worse. She said, what? I said, well, like in Roger Rabbit when he goes into Toontown and there's all those little dancing, singing cartoon people like in his face, like really loud, like that. Or like if you went on It's a Small World, but it was at 45 RPMs, about 10 times as loud. What? I said, yeah, dancing, singing dolls. La 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 la. She said, good God, I think I'll take the murder dreams. That's horrifying. I wake up screaming. Yeah. So I did have the screaming, dancing, singing dolls problem. It got better.
That's a new one.
No, I hadn't heard that one. No, although I have not like
It's
that.
a Small World on crack kind of thing.
No, I've had weird dreams, but I haven't had that.
But we probably will now that you put it in our head. So
horrifying.
Oh, that's
just like, stop, get away from me. Like Technicolor too, really bright too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my! And then you
like weird horror because it's like all pink and like multicolor Barbie colors. But
it's like seeing
that does not sound fun.
The Dumbo, was that Dumbo where they had the pink elephants on parade? Yeah. Yeah, that sounds
Bridget,
like
you're just making it worse now. Your dreams
making it
are
worse. Now I'm going to dream about it too.
Now you're going to dream this. Oh God, I'm sorry. It was my friend Robin. Oh my God, you have to have Robin Tyler on. My friend Robin Tyler. You have to have Robin Tyler on. Robin Tyler. A famous stand-up comedian and gay activist. She is the bomb. She's brilliant. She's hilarious. She just had her birthday. Oh my God, how old is she now? She is so brilliant. I've known her for 300 years. She is hysterical. She said, okay, I know how to cure the insomnia. Because I had the thing, you wake up. Is it always 3 a.m.? Do we always wake up? It's always 3 a.m.
Yeah.
She said, I got it. She said, do you have a TV show that you like that's kind of boring? Like soothing, boring? I said, I like the animal shows, like the meerkats, things. Perfect. She said, I like old episodes of Friends. And that, okay. She said, so you get this on whatever you're streaming back then, the TiVo, whatever you have. So you have access to these episodes right away. Okay. She said, when you wake up, and it's always 3 a.m., and you're like, having the heart palpitations. She said, you repeat to yourself, I am having a normal physiological reaction to a normal physical process, because you are. This is what's happening. You're just I'm having a normal reaction to normal physiological, and I am going to go back to sleep. She said, now you repeat this as many times as you need to, but then you watch the very soothing, mindless television that you have selected, like Meerkat Manor, and you stare at this while you repeat this. She said, the first few times I did this, it took hours, but it eventually worked. She said, I've now reached the point I barely have the remote in my hand and I'm asleep.
Oh man.
Crazy. I tried. She said, oh, believe me. She said, you have it. She said, she said, I was put on nearly every drug they had. It was a disaster. Nothing worked. So I did do this instead. I'm not on anything now. I said, get out of here. So 3 a.m. comes, the Meerkat Manor, and I am having an like second night, I'm highly suggestible. Second, third night, I was like, I am having a normal physical.
Oh, wow. Wow. Oh, no.
It's great now. I sometimes wake up, but I can go back to sleep. And if I'm really in trouble, I can, there's streaming and go find little animals on the television.
Oh, if my husband, if I can sneak and turn that TV on with that. But it's funny, I've been doing this lately, waking up. And I mean, I'm on hormone replacement and it was doing great. Now I'm waking up and I keep calling up, oh, I'm getting ready to have second sleep and third sleep. It's like 3 and then 5 and then it's 7. I'm on third sleep now. Okay. Don't bother me.
Some weird study that in ancient times, prehistoric times, and really until we all got clocks and things, people would get up at sunrise and, do their work. And then they'd go to bed ridiculously early at like sunset. And then they'd wake up in the middle of the night and get up for like 2 hours and have like a snack.
I remember hearing that. Yeah.
Go read, talk, eat, and then go back to bed. And that this was actually, even in like medieval times, this was a thing that in the middle of the night, everybody kind of got up and had a little something to eat and sat around, talked about the day, and then went back to bed. And that this was completely normal. And maybe that's some weird.
I'm channeling my ancestors.
While having a hot flash.
Yes.
But yeah, I was taught these crazy relaxation techniques and talking yourself down and watching weird television. And apparently works really well, and beats winding up on sleeping pills. So those sports towels, they're that microfiber thing where you wet them down and wring them out
Yeah.
completely so they don't drip, but they're cold. Yeah, you want to keep a couple of those moist in the refrigerator. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
Mhm.
learned about those because, like, well, doing autograph shows out in the hot sun, you
Oh,
lay it around the back of your
yeah.
neck and it keeps from getting heat stroke. So yeah, and you can get them in beautiful colors. I remember wearing a pretty blue, and everyone thought it was just
It was a
decorative that I
scarf.
had this really great scarf, and it was ice cold. So
Ooh. Oh, that's
my permanent
awesome.
hot flash was totally, and you can cart around little spray bottle, handy for keeping the cat at bay. Also,
Oh
hell
my
yeah.
gosh.
So
Brave.
yeah,
Whatever works. We're always like,
I'm all
whatever
over. I
works.
guess
Yeah.
I have learned the hard way.
And it's
And-
women sitting here like this saying, okay, what worked for you? What worked for you? Because a lot
Yeah.
of times the doctors can't always answer your questions.
They
Yeah.
can't, and sometimes you said you're on the hormone replacement. They're doing everything. They're state of the art technology. They're giving you the thing. This is what, after millions of medical tests and procedures and research we've got, and you're still waking up at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, when did
So
this happen? I mean, it just like started like 5 months ago. And I'm like, deck on it. What the heck? So I don't do it every night, but it happens.
right. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, is that even with, I mean, some people say, I don't want to take anything. So then they have to find a whole thing. But then even if you're taking the things, there's still like weird things going on.
Going
So
on.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
And then, of course, I did the book tour. So right about the time menopause hit, I went on like an international book tour and was
Oh,
too busy
good.
to like know that anything was happening. So
International too. Yeah. So other hours, other time zones. Just oh my gosh.
I know my friends are like, yeah, you had menopause. So you went to France. Like, yeah, that'll work. There you go.
But you love
If you get
France. You even learned to
go to
speak
France.
French
That's
after
amazing.
I did.
40
I went
too.
to Alliance de Française, little Pasadena. Well, they're all over the country, all over the world. And I
Hmm.
went to French school. I had taken French in school, but I wasn't very good at it. And I later found out, yeah, the teacher wasn't that great either. Everyone who had him was like, oh, well, you read about the
I
teacher in the
did
book.
that in the
It was
book. Yes.
horrible. They
Yes.
made me. I had to completely change that man's name because they were like, you can't this.
You can't even identify him. Yeah.
They were
Oh
like,
yeah.
they said,
He
this is
didn't
the kind of guy who'll come after you. What a
he,
yeah.
oh my
Oh my
goodness.
God. And everybody who had him was like, seriously, that guy. So yeah, it just didn't work. My junior high French teacher, she was really good. I think that's like why I knew the months and the days of the week, because she was like that. But I had to go back to school. If I was so doing a show in French, it was insane. I was like, having to learn French on the fly while doing the show. And so I went back to school, and of course, hanging out with my French friends, some of whom don't speak any English. Yeah, you start to catch on,
Wow.
and I learned French, and so now I go and the guy Patrick Lubatier did the show with he wrote a second show and now a third show. We're on our third show, Nellie Oleson From Les années 80. Nellie Oleson sets fire to the 80s. And I just did a whole 9 shows in March, sold out, and I've got shows for October. We've booked a couple shows from October, and 2 of them are sold out
Wow.
for
Oh my
October
Okay.
gosh.
in
That's
France.
Yeah.
amazing.
It is. And how the
Yeah.
French embraced you, like in in your book, you share how as a child, a lot of kids didn't, they were like very mean to her. They didn't understand the
Right.
acting
They didn't
thing.
understand the difference.
Yeah. But like chase you down and hurt you, like,
Somebody threw a McDonald's cup of orange soda at my face during the Christmas parade, of all things. It was just so bonkers. But the first time I talk about the talk show, I was on French, and they really did. They started like analyzing Nellie. She's a child. She's a child without a smile. The poor Nellie. And I'm going, I'm declared innocent under French law? What is happening? And they did. And just French people really, really love Little House on the Prairie. If you're walking in the park with some French people and there's like a meadow with flowers, one of them will scream, I am baby Carrie, and fall down. They're obsessed. They're obsessed. And they love the prairie, and they love Nellie Oleson, and they like me and my weird off-kilter personality and sense of humor. They think I'm a hoot. I like them. Like I said in the book, I always wanted to go to France. All the storybooks said there's always like French castles and little French. And now I've been to all the French castles. I was just that one. Yeah, so it's completely bonkers. I get all the escargot I can eat, all the champagne I can drink.
wow.
It's not a bad deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's a win-win. There you
It
go.
is.
It's a
It
win.
is.
It's a
win-win.
win-win.
Yes.
They're happy. I'm happy. We're all yeah.
What
Yeah.
are you excited to see them remaking and doing a reboot?
So wild. And the big cry, not or don't call it a reboot. I mean, I guess for a lot of people, reboot would be rebooting like the 70s version of our show. So it's
Right.
like almost a prequel. I've been calling it the prequel because they're going back to the books. Like Laura's going to be really young. It's like Kansas. So they go. At one point I was like, are they going back to Big Woods? It looks like they're going back to Little House in the Prairie, Kansas, but it is like the pilot era, like way back.
Okay.
So yeah, way back. So it's if this was Marvel or something, it'd be a prequel. And it's all new, everybody. And people say it was all unknowns. Well, we were all unknowns when our show started. Michael was the only person anybody knew who he was. Victor French and Richard Bull and a lot of people were famous character actors. Dabs Greer, they'd been in everything, but nobody knew who they were. And nobody knew who the heck Karen Grassley was, or Melissa Sue Anderson, or me, or anybody. I mean, yeah. So again, they will discover a whole crop of new people who will be Laura and Mary and Ma. And if they find the right people, which I know they're really throwing it, working, going full bore on this. If they get the right people, they could really pull it off because it was absolutely about the chemistry between the actors. If that somewhere is that girl, if that girl shows up at that audition and is Laura, then we're off to the races with this thing. So basically all of us from the original show, we're like sitting there with the popcorn waiting to see what happens. We're like,
Yeah.
we're on the edge of our seats. We can't, they're keeping us in the loop. It's not, the people who have the rights. They're like, okay, we are doing the show. Here's when it's happening. Location scouting has started. It hasn't even been filmed. They're just scouting locations and having auditions. Literally, they just started having auditions. So people are saying like, well, when does it air? I go, they just started having casting. They don't even have everyone yet. The breakdowns in the script just happened like 5 minutes ago. So eventually, I mean, there'll be a huge announcement when everybody's cast. There'll be a huge announcement, I'm sure, when it starts filming. There'll be an announcement when it's about to air. I mean, this is not going to stop. This is just they're going to pump this continuously all year. But I am a believer in the rising tide floats all boats theory. Look what this is doing. The fact that there's all this interest in the Netflix show. Whose phone is ringing? Hi, all of us from the show. Everybody wants to ask us, well, what do you think? I am old enough to play Mrs. Oleson now. They have my phone number. I'm just saying. Totally there. I'm also totally available if they need coaching for the new Nellie, if she needs any tips and that. Totally there. Support team for the new Nellie Oleson. Yeah, it's marvelous, but our phones are ringing. We're all getting press from it. People want to come to our events and see us, and now our show is streaming like mad.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, we had that really long, really difficult Screen Actors Guild strike, right? And we were all just like, oh, man. And they said, well, yeah, but people are not getting money from streaming. We have to do this. We have to get something from streaming because eventually it will be all streaming. It's all going to be streaming. That would be saying, this is the new TV, is streaming. And it would be like not getting residuals from the new thing, which is going to be the only thing because everything else will go away probably because that's how stuff works. I mean, when TV first started, all the movie people said, TV, that's not going to be anything. But streaming is. So we have to make sure that people are compensated something for streaming because there's so much of it. And when we were having the strike, a lot of us on the old show said, yes, but they're rerunning all the old shows. We know all the new shows are going to be properly paid for streaming. But are we old shows? We're not. What apparently we are. What's marvelous is Little House was started around the time of what they call the in perpetuity clause. So we do get residuals. Now, when you rerun something, it's less each time. So it's been 51 years and they've been rerunning it round the clock. So no, It's not like real money at this point. But now we are going to start receiving, apparently we're getting money from streaming now. So we're like,
good.
Because all these years later, everything's gone full circle and we're getting a completely new and different and totally other setup of residual payments that never happened before. And there's a new version of the show starting.
Awesome. Wow.
That's wonderful.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah,
that's all happening.
I always felt so horrible because somebody's making that money and that's your talent. Yeah. I mean, that's your talent.
And there's
a
lot of ex-child stars who don't get residuals. A lot of the very old shows, they either paid no residuals or they paid for 6 airings and the 7th airing, you're on your own. But in 74, 75 was when they said, residuals forever. And like I said, they get smaller and smaller and smaller. I mean, I just got my $1.68 for my fantasy island.
Yes.
Oh,
My
wait.
regular,
We
my
didn't
buck
even
Yeah.
get
68
to
I
your
get for my
fantasy
That's
island.
right. No,
That was so good.
we have a guy in our neighborhood that was in a band, and he would check. Here's money I collect in the street that I find. Here's my residual check, and he compares them.
The money he would get putting out his guitar case and playing versus his
Oh,
royalties
he would
if
make
he's
so
on like
much more.
Spotify or something. That
Yes.
guitar case is going to pay way better. I can tell you that.
Yes.
This was so fun, Allison.
Yes.
Guys,
Yeah.
make sure you have a website that has so much information on it.
Yes.
Bonntheads.com.
Yeah.
Bonntheads.com. I'm also launching a whole AlisonArngrim.net just because
Okay.
I can.
Okay. We'll put the link
But
in the show notes.
I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. I'm on everything. I'm everywhere. Guy TikTok occasionally. I'm on everything. And then of course the fabulous podcast with Dean Butler and Pamela Bob. And then I have the Alison Arngrim show. I'm having Jill Whalen from Love Boat on Tuesday.
Oh, how
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We're just everywhere all the time. We're bad. We're nationwide. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that would be so fun. We'd love to have her on. Tell her to come over here after.
I'm telling you to come over. Yes. And yeah, I'm
Yes.
going to just stick you on
Yes.
Robin. But boy, you want to talk about menopause? You need Robin Tyler on. She is a scream and
Love
a
it.
half.
Yeah,
We would
we'll have
love
to get
that.
her info. Yeah, yeah, and if you're in any of these areas, you got to check out Allison's show because she's coming to Nashville,
I'm coming.
Louisville. So
Can't
my
wait.
people there, make sure you check it out. So
Thank you
Absolutely.
so
And you get to
much.
ask me anything. So it'll be
that's
good.
right.
Well, Bridget and I will be in the back going, wait, what should we ask? What
Yeah.
should we ask? Thank
Oh,
you.
goodness.